phones completely, totally off, that would be really fantastic. Let's keep this as a sacred space. Hello, welcome to the regulars room. Yes, and we're live on YouTube now. So very warm welcome to everyone out there on YouTube. I'm Suvarnajyoti, and this is Wednesday night at the London Buddhist Centre. So so we're going to start with a body scan. Hiya, come in. Hello, welcome. Come in. Haha, you're slightly late, which means you have to sit in front of me. There we go. There's other. I think there's other mats back there. Yep. Okay, great. Could you? Yeah. Could you wave if there's a mat near you that's free? If not, there we are. Yep. Yeah. Great. Okay. And just while people are arriving, could you just give me a wave if it's your first time here in the regulars room? Yep. 1, 2, 3. Great. Okay. Well, welcome. But we're just going to start with really arriving properly here. Hi there, there's a mat right here. I want to come to this, okay? Great. So you want to make sure that you haven't got a big fat cushion behind your head. You want quite a slim cushion behind your head, ideally, just to keep your neck at the correct angle. Feet hip width distance apart. And just see if you can find the sweet spot of balance with the knees so that you're not having to hold them up by muscle power. And if you can't quite manage to balance them, then just let them fall in towards each other and prop each other up. Because what we don't want is tension in the thighs as we just arrive in. And you can have your arms by your side if you wish, or on your belly. Yeah, thank you, Xander. Could you? And we're just going to start by stopping. By seeing if you can really let all of your psyche, all of yourself catch up with your physical body that's lying here now. Whatever kind of day you've had, whatever kind of journey you've had to get here. Inviting all of you to come together right now. And dropping inwards into the awareness of the body. And every time your mind pops off somewhere else, just keep inviting it back and into the body. So we're just soothing it back and into the body. Taking an overall sense of your physical experience right now. Just clocking that. then just clocking what the emotional weather is like just now. And now just noticing what the quality of your mind is just now. The kinds of thoughts that you're having and the quality of them. Sluggish or speedy. Just noticing. And now letting your awareness drop down into your points of contact with the earth. Through your back, the pelvis, your head on the cushion, feet on the floor. And just tuning into the quality of the sensations of contact. Seeing if you can notice the sense of the energy in that contact. And a sense that it's connecting you down through the floor and into the living earth beneath us. And as you breathe out, consciously letting yourself give your weight up to the earth. We're so often slightly tensed against the earth. So this is an invitation to just really, really let the earth hold you. And here's the earth holding you and all the billions and billions of other beings that we share the planet with. And if you get distracted, just keep coming back to the experience of contact and a sense of sinking down into the earth. A sense of being rooted down into the earth. Softening your face, seeing if you can really let it completely relax. The brow and the eyes, the cheek, the jaw, the tongue. Really Gently softening it and noticing the air, the touch of the air, the gentle touch on your softening face. Softening the shoulders, seeing if they can drop down a tiny bit more towards the ground. Softening the hands. And now softening the legs and feet. And now tuning into where the breath is showing up in the body for you right now. And seeing if you can keep that overall sense of the whole body, a real physical experience of it. Not a sort of image of it in your head. An actual physical sense of your whole body. With just an ever such a slight spotlight on wherever the breath is showing up the most strongly for you just now. And for the next few minutes until I ring the bell, as best you can, staying with this broad sense of the body and anchoring your awareness into the breath. And just coming back home to that again and again whenever you get distracted. as it gradually fades. And then in your own time, I want to roll over onto one side, rolling towards the shrine first. And just rest yourself there for a minute or two. Notice how your body feels there. And then, in your own time, coming up. And yeah, Sandra, do you want to just check if there's anybody else? Great. Okay, so just sit yourself comfortably, because I'm going to say a few things before we meditate. If you came in slightly late, do have a look around and see, make sure you've got a mat and cushions, whatever you might need to be comfortable, or by all means go on a chair if you prefer that. Okay, so let's just see if we've got anyone else. No? No? Okay, great. Okay. So yes, welcome everybody. So we are sort of in the midst, as some of you will know, we're in the midst of a series in which we've been looking at a model of the Buddhist teachings called the 5 spiritual faculties, and we've been looking at each of these 5 spiritual faculties and exploring how that faculty can enhance our meditation practice. So last week I was talking about the faculty of Prajna, Buddhist wisdom, and its relationship to the mindfulness of breathing. And today I'm going to be talking about Prajna and its relationship to the Metta Bhavana. So so if you haven't been to any of the previous sessions in here, don't worry. Hopefully it should stand alone and you should still be able to get a sense of what's going on. Just a little, I'm going to start with a small recap from last week, although I can't go into all of it, I'm afraid. So we're talking about this faculty of Prajna, which is translated as wisdom, but wisdom, in a way, there isn't really a word for it in English. Wisdom sort of, we can tend to think of that as like, someone who's terribly clever or has read lots of books or something like that. And Prajna's really, it's a very different quality of wisdom. It's the wisdom of being able to see through the delusions that we all live our mundane life under, and being able to see through that to the true reality, the truth of reality behind that. And the key thing that we were talking about last week is that is of working with our awareness to see through this thing that we call self, this thing that we think of as this solid me, and to look more deeply into our experience and to see that the deeper we look, the more the idea of that there is a solid me, the more that idea begins to break down, the closer we look at our experience. So we could think of Prajna, this wisdom, as untangling this knot of self. So we all have this idea that I'm a fixed, separate being, person. There's me, there's you, that we're all separate, that we're all sort of a fixed person. And the Buddha said, if you really look at your experience, you will discover that that's not the case. If you can untangle that knot of those views of seeing yourself in that way, then that will lead to this wisdom, or that is the wisdom that we can see reality through. And so we talk about having no fixed self. It's not that there isn't a sort of, like we experience ourselves as a self, don't we? But there's no fixed, unchanging self. In Buddhism, anyway. Other religions have different views on this, but the Buddha was very clear, and all of his practices point in this direction. They say, look at your experience more and more and more deeply, and you will see for yourself that is the case. And the more mindful that we can be of the more and more subtle nuances of our experience, the more we will experience this just pure sense of flow of sensation. I'm aware this is a very, very rapid whistle-stop tour through what we talked about last week. But it's just to give a flavour for the people that weren't here, and maybe a reminder for those that were. So impermanence is a key, absolutely central teaching in Buddhism. And impermanence tells us that everything is always changing. Everything is always changing. Some things change very quickly, some things change very, very slowly, but everything is always changing. And that includes me, that includes you, that includes everything. But beneath that impermanence, deeper than the impermanence, is this Prajna wisdom of that, in fact, there are no things to change anyway. There are no things. There is just change. There is just flow. Now, if we look, like if I look at you all in this room now, in a instantaneous snapshot of time, it looks like a lot of sort of people sitting down there. But you know, you've only got to look at anything under time-lapse photography. I remember when I was a kid and they first started showing things on the television with that time-lapse photography, and it was just magical. And actually, you could do that with anything. And if you speeded it up fast enough, you would see there's never a point when anything just stops and is a thing. It's just constantly moving through all the time. So this change, so being able to deeply live from that wisdom of changingness, that's Prajna. That is Prajna. Other words that you may have heard are insubstantiality, shunyata, emptiness. So for those of you who know a little bit more about Buddhism, that's the arena that we're talking about. So nothing is fixed. In fact, there are no things. There is just flow and change. And we cause ourselves all of our heartache by fighting against that, by trying to keep things the way we want them, stop them being the way we don't want them, stop things from changing, make other things change in ways that they're not going to change. All the time we're fighting against this mysterious, deep flow that is life. And that's a sort of bit of a recap from last week when we were exploring it, particularly in the context of mindfulness practices. But moving on now to start to move a little bit towards how does that relate to the Metta Bhavana as a practice. Because everything is just pure flow, there is nothing but flow. What that means is there's no fixed me, and therefore there is no, I can't be the centre of the universe. By which I mean, we all live our lives as if we are the centre of the universe. I don't mean that like we're sort of, I was going to say the name of a particular world leader there. I don't mean that we're, highly kind of narcissistic. I'm just saying it's a natural part of humanity, of unenlightened humanity, is that I am the most important person in the world to me. You are the most important person in the world to you. I think I'm the centre of the universe. You think you're the centre of the universe. And guess what? There's 7 billion people on the planet, and we all think we're the centre of the universe. And, you know, don't get me started on all the animals and the creatures as well. So even with the humans, that's 7 billion centres of the universe on this planet. Maybe there are billions and billions more on other planets, who knows? And, you know, I can see a couple of people smiling, and in a way, you sort of, when you say it like that, you kind of go, well, of course that can't be true. That can't be truly what's going on. It might be my experience of it, but it can't be reality that there are 7 billion at plus centres of the universe. So, so in a way, this is what can lead us to come at this idea of no fixed self from more of a perspective of solidarity with all those billions of others. So if I think I'm the centre of the universe, and I want things to work out for me, and I want my life to work out the way that I, you know, and that's what I would like. I want to be happy. I don't want to suffer. I want to feel a sense of, you know, progress and achievement in my life. Then I can know that that's the same for all of you as well. That's the same for all of us, for the 7 billion of us, all on the planet, all completely unique, and yet all deeply, deeply the same. And what we tend to do is we just focus on ourselves and a few people around us, don't we? You know, our nearest and dearest, whoever they might be. But I think one of there's so many, the pandemic, I think, has really highlighted so many of the spiritual teachings, so many of the Buddhist teachings. And I think for me, one of the things that the pandemic really showed, it showed how similar we all are, because there were all these different people all over the world, all all in the grip of this same pandemic and all worried about the same things. Now, of course, we could get into the whole argument about the massive social inequality that has meant some countries have had all the vaccines and other countries haven't. Yes, absolutely. But it just purely on a sort of human level, there we all were, all of us human beings, struggling against this virus. So there was that similarity and solidarity, and also that sense of interconnectedness. You know, in a so often in a tragic way. You know, there'd be somebody with such and such a variant of the virus would pop up over in this country, and then because 5 minutes later there's somebody in another country, because somehow or another there's been a connection between them on a plane or in an airport, or whatever it might be. This incredible sense of how interconnected our world is. And so we need to use that. We need to use that in our practice. We need to use that in our meditation. So in terms of untangling this knot of self, one way in practice is to do it through the mindfulness of breathing practice, untangling that knot of awareness there. So through deepening your awareness of your own individual experience, so that I can see, see is not even a good word. The trouble is, you sort of language slightly breaks down, but I can deeply experience the changingness of everything. So that's one way of moving towards Prajna. But the other way to move towards Prajna from a Metta Bhavana perspective, from a perspective of looking outwards to other beings, is by coming at the Metta Bhavana practice from a real place of solidarity, from this realization of our deep similarity, and our profound interconnectedness across the globe. So what I'm going to invite us to do in a moment is we'll do a Metta Bhavana, and I'll give you a little reminder. So the first stage is yourself, the second stage is a good friend, third stage is a neutral person, fourth stage someone you find a little bit difficult, and then the fifth stage you bring everyone together and then go out to all beings. So just in case for those of you who are a bit newer to it. And what I'm going to really invite you to do is, rather than doing the Metta Bhavana and thinking, this is me wishing them well, because straight away you're into that sort of thinking of me as this separate being that's wishing metta to these other beings. In a way, seeing if you can drop into a deeper sense of this interconnectedness and this solidarity that we share with all life, actually. But 7 billion humans is enough to be going on with. But actually, with all life, that in a way, if you can could almost be like imagining yourself getting bigger and bigger and bigger, especially in the fifth stage, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and more sort of porous and diffuse, and just taking in more and more and more beings with your care and your well-wishing for them, so that you're sort of going beyond this little fixed sense of me sitting here. I hope that makes some kind of sense. What we'll do is we're going to have a go at it before tea, and then after tea we'll have a chance to unpack it a bit more and explore how it went, and then we'll have another go at it. Okay? So if you want to set yourselves up for a period of the Metta Bhavana. So we're going for this sense of equality, solidarity, similarity, connectedness. Deep a sense of that as we can. Okay. Right. Good. Okay, so when you're ready, closing your eyes. And letting your awareness drop back and internally again. Tuning back in to the body. As probably your energy's been in your head as you've been trying to listen to what I'm saying. So just really inviting the attention to drop down through the whole body. Noticing your connection with the floor and with the earth beneath it. This earth from which we all came and which connects us all. The Metta Bhavana. starting with opening up towards yourself as best you can. Seeing if you can have a sense of connectedness with yourself. Solidarity, equality towards a good friend. Whatever I want, so do others.
talking to someone you barely know. They're just like you. And now the difficult person. Can we loosen our bias towards ourselves by just giving that love and care to them as best we can? They too are just trying to be happy. together all the people so far. All of them thinking they're centre of the universe, just like you. Can we send them love and care, just like we have that for ourselves and our loved ones? Can we do that for everybody equally, as best we can? And then spreading out from there to more and more of those billions of beings. And now just dropping any effort that you're making, just completely relaxing your mind and just ending the practice, just sitting in open awareness, just sitting. tea available outside now if you want to get a cup of tea. And we'll be carrying on this exploration after the tea break. So for people on YouTube, we'll probably be back about 8:35, 8:40. But let's keep this room a silent space during the break in case people do want to stay quiet. So do feel free to stay in here if you want to stay quiet. If not, do go and get a cup of tea.
Can we get a cup of tea and then come back here and be silent?
I'm afraid not. We're not allowed to have tea in here because it just gets spilled on the mats. Sorry.
That's all right,
To
thanks.
you at the end, but I'll just pop it to you now.
Okay.
It's not urgent.
Okay. Okay. Right. Hello, folks. Welcome back. So if you had your phone on during the break, please turn it off again. Yeah, great. Lovely. Could you just, Xandra will do it, but thank you. Yeah. Let's just see if we've got anyone else coming back in. They might be in the loo. So just while we wait see if there's any more people, just in case you've been distracted by the tea break. Before the tea break, we were doing this Metta Bhavana about connectedness and seeing beyond ourself as the centre of the universe. So just maybe reflecting back a little bit on what your experience was of that. That seems like that's us, that's Xandra, does it? Yeah, great, okay. Right. So we're going to have a little chance to explore this a little bit. I'm going to invite you to get into pairs in a moment. So and just to share a little bit with each other what that practice was like just before the break, and what your responses or questions or reactions are to this, what I've been talking about with this idea of prajna, this wisdom of seeing through the delusion of a fixed, separate self. What your reactions are to that, or does it all just sound like complete nonsense? Whatever. So if you want to find somebody that you don't know, so if you came with a friend, don't pick them. And just get in, and it just be a couple of minutes each. Just introduce yourself to each other and share something of your experience. Call us. Oh, you've got someone. Swapping over if you haven't done, let the other person. lots to say. Okay, great. Good. Okay. So hopefully the people on YouTube were chatting to each other too on the feed. Xander can just come and check that you're all okay there. Okay, so here's a chance, to sort of let's get into it a little bit more. How was it for you? What was it like? What did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you struggle with it? Have you got any questions about it? Anything that came up for you or that came up in your conversation with your pairs? Yes, hello, what's your name?
Sarah.
Sarah, hi Sarah, yes.
I was just remembering a quote about being with the ocean, not just a wave or something like. I think I'm getting it wrong a little bit actually. But
Yeah.
Something that I find really useful when trying to put that into perspective of not being the centre of the universe.
Yes, that's lovely. Yes, that's a lovely metaphor. The idea that we get so attached to ourselves. We're one little wave, and we think we're this, very special, important wave, and actually we don't realise that, we're just part of this ocean that's in constant flow. So that can be a really helpful way of thinking about it. Yeah. So thank you for that, Sarah. Anybody else got any comments, questions, confusions?
A little bit. I just because as we were sharing, I said to Theodora that I'm slightly in two minds about it.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a background of psychotherapy,
Uh-huh.
and what I was thinking about is this quote by Carl Jung. He said that first half of his life he was developing his ego, and the second half of his life he was letting go of it.
Right.
And I sort of noticed that in maybe myself and other people, that it's sort of as if you first develop yourself and establish yourself as separate being, a healthy, strong, separate being, and then sort of let go of everything and sort of dissolve into this wide ocean.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it may be if it might be too early to let go of ourselves in a way. It's sort of if the caterpillar tried to fly before it became a butterfly.
Yeah.
And I sometimes looking around I meet people who are very positively influenced by spirituality, and to some others I see who they get stuck into a sort of spiritual bypass, where it's almost sort of collusive ego, and spirituality becomes ego, and you put a lot of Buddha pictures and so on, and kind of almost that becomes a thing of a status as well.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's maybe sometimes a problem where a sort of underdeveloped, crying, hurt ego gets deep into spirituality.
Yes.
And so I just wonder if there's the right time to let go.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question, Paula. It's really, really, and it kind of goes to the heart of spiritual practice. It's interesting because, I completely agree that we need to be careful with these teachings. In our particular Buddhist movement, we have a real strong emphasis on the mindfulness of breathing and the Metta Bhavana as the main core practices all the way up until you become ordained. We have more practices that are around this letting go of self that we receive at ordination and that we do as order members. The idea being that in the process of ordination, you're being constantly sort of supported and helped to get to a point where your ego is healthy enough that you can do that work. Because I think that is really important. And it's one of the sort of paradoxes is that you've got to have a self before you can let go of a self. And if you're if your self is very damaged and broken and wounded, which sadly, is the case for a lot of us, then there needs to be that careful, gentle awareness and metta practice and psychotherapy and other things, yoga, other things that will gently sort of heal that psyche. Because you're absolutely right. If the danger can be is if you try to sort of go for that and drop it all sort of straight away. That can be dangerous if people are quite fragile and damaged. So you're right. You're absolutely right. And in a way, what I've been trying what I've been trying to evoke is a bit of a flavour of that in these sessions. Just really so we can have these conversations and people can explore a bit what their experience of it is. But you're absolutely right. It's sort of it is something that you do need to be careful of and have the right amount of robustness and resilience, and that will vary from person to person. So, some people, if people have been fortunate enough to have had a very sort of happy, positive childhood, and they've been born with a resilient sort of character, then they're going to be it's not going to be so difficult for them. Not everybody's starting from the same starting line. And that's why, say, with our ordination process, people will often say, oh, how long does it take you to get ordained? And, the fact is it's different for different people because people are working with different things. So, but thank you for raising that. Does that answer what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly concerned as such, but
yeah.
That was my response. I think with the practice, I think your practices are quite body-based, and that's good for sense of self.
Yeah. Yes.
Coming back into the body.
Yeah, coming back into the body, exactly. That's why we're very focused on that and on the building that, building the metta muscle. That's why the Metta Bhavana is such an important practice as well. Yeah. Because you can't really, I mean, I say this as if I've done it myself. I mean, I've only had glimpses of it. But you need to have a huge amount, you need to have a really steady, grounded sense of metta to be able to sort of let go into what it seems as if you're letting go into non-existence. So if you do that from a kind of negative place or from a place of, I hate myself so much, so I'll let go of myself, which is one of the things that can happen with the bypassing that you were talking about. That actually you need an awful lot of that robustness and self-metta to be able to really do it. And that's why in our movement, that's why Sangharakshita set our movement up that way, that you would only do the full-on insight practices once people felt you were able enough to hold that. Yeah. Which is not to say that some of you guys couldn't do that too. In a way, I don't want to be too sort of I don't know, like
dogmatic.
Dogmatic, or like just because I'm an order member, I'm sort of somehow got a different mind to you. You've got we've all working with the human mind, but we wouldn't definitively be given those practices until that point of ordination within our movement. Other movements do it differently, and I can't comment on that because it's not, that's up to them. But yeah, thank you for raising. It's a really important point.
Thanks.
Okay, we've probably got time for one more quick question if anyone's got one. Is there any questions on YouTube, Sander? No. Anybody else want to ask anything or?
I don't really have a question, but I think what you're saying, what you both said, makes a lot of sense. When I was doing that meditation practice, especially when we got to the last part of it, the fifth part of it, I just felt a sense of love. I mean, I couldn't help but feel that warmth and a smile on my face. And I think, like you were saying about the mind, when you fixate on something, no matter what it is, you make it harder to free yourself from the mind when you're wanting to do something good or not. And I think on a simple level, just feeling that love is the best place to start.
And what do you think what do you have a sense of how that came about for you today?
Well,
do you know
I'll be honest, I have been meditating for a while, so I'm quite in touch with my body. And really, it's what you're saying about 7 billion people and the fact that we all have the same wants and needs. We all want to be happy. Deep down, we're all the same person. And I think that makes it easier to feel that love for all people.
Yeah, it's very connecting, isn't it? Yeah. And I completely agree. Sorry, what's your name?
My name's Aaron.
Aaron. So I completely agree with what you said about if you fixate on something and you kind of get tight and grip onto it, and that you know sort of makes it much harder to actually sort of relax and be happy, because you're so sort of fixated on whatever it is that you want. You know, and that's craving. That's what the Buddha described as craving. When we're coming from a very small sense of self and fixating, this is, I want this, and this is what's going to make me happy, and I'm just going to be like that about it, and it's all about me, and it's all about this thing that I want. And I'm sure we've all done that. I've certainly done that and still continue to do it at times, to greater or lesser extents, definitely. But it's like sort of noticing that if I can relax that sort of clinging onto it and that gripping onto it, relax that sense of selfing, that actually everything flows much better, and I'm much more contented whether I get the thing or not, the thing that I was actually wanted. But yeah, so thanks for saying that, Aaron. That sounds great. Okay, so let's have another practice then before we finish for this evening. And if you have got something you want to ask, you can always come and chat to me at the end of the class. I might read a little excerpt from a poem. I don't think I'm going to read the whole thing. To see. Sorry, I'm just thinking aloud. Okay, so setting yourself up. And when you're ready, closing your eyes. And letting your awareness drop in and down and through you. Taking the time to connecting with all the different parts of your body. Tuning in with your breath. Just thinking of all the billions of beings that you're breathing with right now. Ones that you love, ones that you don't, and most of whom you'll never meet and never know.
dropping any effort that you're making. Just sitting in open awareness. Learning to love differently is hard. Love with the hands wide open. Love with the doors banging on their hinges, the cupboard unlocked, the wind roaring and whimpering in the rooms, rustling the sheets and snapping the blinds that thwack like rubber bands in an open palm. It hurts to love wide open, stretching the muscles that feel as if they're made of wet plaster, then of blunt knives, then of sharp knives. I can't do it, you say. It's killing me. But you thrive. You glow on the street like a neon raspberry. Just about all we've got time for this evening. But so next week we'll be moving on to, I think the next, it must be the next one, the next spiritual faculty. I think it's Dharnatha next week. We'll be reflecting on that in relation to the mindfulness of breathing. And just before I send you off to glow in the street like neon raspberries, I love that line. I always try and get that poem in somewhere because I just think that's such a great line. Just to say that as many of you know, we try to operate the Buddhist Centre as much as we can from a spirit of generosity. So all of us that teach here, we don't get paid to teach. We teach because it's our way of giving back to this project that we believe so passionately in, this project of helping people to learn how to practice and work with their minds so that they can be happier, healthier human beings and they can be more positive influence out in the world. So that's why I teach here, that's why we, Xander and the others help with, and John and the others help on the team. So if you'd like to be part of that, of helping us keep that project going, and you're in a position to be able to give us a donation for this evening, we'd be really, really grateful. Someone at the door will, on the way out, will be happy to do that for you. And if you're not in a position to do that, or you don't wish to give us a donation, that's also totally fine, and you're every bit as welcome to be here. And I think Xander will just put a link onto YouTube for the YouTubers as well. But that's it for tonight. Thank you for engaging so fully, and lots to reflect on and think about. And I look forward to imagining you all going out the door, all these little neon raspberries going home through London, so and across the world indeed. Go well, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Okay. If you've got any questions or you just want to say hi, do come, and don't be shy. Sandra, are we off air, or do I need to press this? I can't seem to make the microphone turn on. Oh yes, thank you.